ask if there's any public comment, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Actually, at the beginning and end of each item.
Okay.
And if you have an agenda, I didn't get it, but
All right, we're live.
I will show it on the side of the screen in a few minutes.
We're live.
Okay, proceed on, Mr. Pisani.
All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting this morning of the Respiratory Care Advisory Committee. We do have a quorum, so we will proceed with the minutes of the meeting. Do we have anybody like to address us from the public, Dr. Collado?
At this time, we have no information about that.
Okay. The minutes were forwarded to everyone from September 21st, 20. Does everyone have a chance to look over them?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I can move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who's seconded?
It's Brett.
Okay.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have anybody from the public, Dr. Collado?
No, sir, at this time. The only thing I would remind staff is, Ms. Diana, if you would submit the minutes to us directly instead of to IT, because we have to make sure that they're okay before we put them up and there's no mistakes in it, any violation of the privacy rights or anything of the affected practitioners that may or may not be discussed at this meeting would need to be protected. So we'd like to send them to us first to have legal review them before we put them on the website. And send them now.
Okay. Well, I've never sent them to anybody in IT. It always comes to you and Raymond.
Okay. All
And
right.
then
So
y'all.
that's good. Some of the committees are sending them to IT for publication directly, and we need to stop that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I generally forward them to Jacinda when she requests them as well.
Yeah. We'll send them to Jacinta. Yeah. If you send them to me, I'll send them to Jacinta.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to old business, item C, letter C rather. Follow up with Dr. Collado, revisions to the RT rules and regs.
Okay, so we are in the process of finalizing 8 rules right now. You are on the agenda for probably the March meeting of the board. You have given me those documents and we're in the process of putting them together. And if anybody needs anything, I will let you know, but I anticipate the March meeting, you will be on the agenda for the board to approve, modify, or change anything that they have in regards to what they want the rules to say. And then at that point, we will begin the process. And so I'll keep you abreast of the process through emails to Raymond, and he can send them on to the rest of you all. And I think we're, again, like I said, we're finalizing 8. We're going to finalize the OTs, which will probably go for the January meeting, and you all will probably be for the March meeting. So we're getting them rotating, moving along through the process throughout the next couple of years. We got CLP rules, which will probably be ready for February. So you all OT, and the first 3 months we'll probably do OT, CLP, and then y'all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Collado. I provided some information in the packets, pages 5 through 10 on CE Broker, and we'll have a little discussion on that. How does CE Broker appear to be going, Dr. Collado, or on the staff?
Well, excuse me, CE Broker is moving along pretty nicely. We've got a number of people signing up. We have probably right now more MDs because that's one of our largest licensing group. We've got about 1,400 MDs signing up, and we get regular reports every couple of weeks about them, and we're meeting with CE Broker every 2 weeks. So if you guys are starting to tell people to sign up, or y'all are trying to sign up, if you're encountering any problems, if you let us know, usually every 2 weeks we'll be telling CE Broker about the problems to make them work. And just to remember, as you get asked questions, 2021 is the phase-in year, and there will be no audits for continuing education in 2020. We are just beginning the audit of 2019. Now, this is going to stop. This will be the last audit we do. By 2022, everybody will either have their CEs or they will not have their license renewed. That is the stated goal. And that way we ensure 100% compliance of our licensees with continuing education. The other thing you need to know is for the year 2021, let's see, you guys renew on birthday.
Yes.
So the last day of your birth month will be your deadline to renew, and any CEs that you want to use for the 2021 year would have to come in the 12 months prior to the deadline for your renewal. So if you're a January birthday, the last day in January, so any CEs from February 1, 2020 to January 31 or January in 2021 would be counted, but everybody only needs 2 for January. Every month we're going to add 2. So if you're a March birthday, you'll need 6. And it's the 12 rolling months from the last day of your birth month. Does anybody have any questions about that? Am I making it too complicated?
No, I think the CE part is clear. I do have some comments on CE broker. I went and signed up last night and started going through it. Couple of areas that we need to address seems like some of the questions are duplicated, like, and I apologize, I screenshotted them and I didn't send them out to everybody this morning, but question number 1, what is the name of the course completed? When you go to question number 2, it's the same question. What is the name of the course completed?
Okay, well, let me say this to you. I have not looked at yours, but the first thing it asks us is how many hours on the first question page. Y'all do it, maybe do it a little differently, and I will work with Marcia to fix that.
Oh, I apologize, doctor. It did. I don't know. My pages are out of order. I have a concern there also. It does actually the date of the course and how many CEUs was obtained.
Right.
Like when I went in to put this specific course that I just did through the AARC Congress, it was only 0.58 credit hours.
Okay.
It doesn't accept anything but doesn't accept anything less than 1.
No, it does. We have it set to accept 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. I mean, because I put mine in that way.
Well,
So if they didn't adjust yours, I'll make sure yours are adjusted, but it is capable, and we'll make sure that gets fixed.
and I went on this morning as well to retry it, and it won't let me enter some credits that I had over the last 2 weeks. Some of them are just 0.58 hours because they're only 35-minute courses.
Okay. So what we'll do is I'll address that with Marcia today. I'll copy you on the email, and we'll make sure that gets fixed. But I know other people are putting them in, and they just need to tune that up. Now, do you want, and I guess I'm going to ask you this in the way you want it. Do you want it to say to add numbers like 0.58 is an unusual number? Most people grant half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, but y'all are granting them in tenths of an hour. Is that kind of what y'all usually do?
This is how our national organization set up our annual Congress, and it's been like this, I think, for the last few years. Correct me if I'm wrong, Diana or Sheila or Beth or Brad, whoever. Brad, I'm sorry.
I think so.
Okay. Well, I'll fix it so that it accepts tenths of hours. I can do that. It's not a problem.
Okay. Again, like I said, question 1, 2, question 1 and 2 are duplicates of the same thing. And then question 5 and 6 are the same questions and same responses. How was this activity accredited?
Right. That should be a series of 6 or 7 checkoffs, and not just an answer. Whereas the name is you have to fill in the blank for the name.
No, you just have to highlight it or whatever.
Correct.
But it's the same question twice.
Okay, good enough. We'll fix that.
And other than that, that's all I saw myself on CE Broker, and then you just have to upload your documentation.
Now, just so you'll know, they will take just about anything, but I'm telling everybody PDF is the best. Remember to remind people that if they take basic, they will not save your next year's credit when you're licensed. So you need to make sure that if you need it for something else, you keep your own. And then the other thing you need to be recognizing is if you choose to pay the $29 one or the $99 one, they will keep those for you in perpetuity. But basically all I'm doing is printing mine up when I renew, and I'll keep a file for that, and I'll have that transcript I can send to anybody. That's the other thing. If you have RTs that are licensed in other states like Mississippi is doing CE broker and for the docs, and I think they're doing it for the RTs, but check with the other states for RT licensing. I know that they're doing this around the country, and so that's available to people who are licensed in multiple states. But nonetheless, all the credit transcripts that you get from CE broker can be submitted to another state, even if they're not using CE broker, you submit it in paper.
Okay. Are we going to send another blast out for CE?
Oh, we're sending emails. It's in the website. It's in the newsletter. Everybody, we're going to keep hitting it. We're fielding phone calls. I think, we're getting fewer and fewer phone calls every day. I think there's a lot of angst, but I think it's coming out fine right now. I think it's just going to it's going to be a phase-in year, and we're going to iron out all the difficulties in 21. And 22, it'll be real time, and it's going to work for everybody.
Anybody else have anything else they'd like to discuss about CE broker? Okay. Follow up on CEUs for 2021.
Raymond, I got a question. I was
Yes.
looking at the, who do we contact at the state board if there's questions? I didn't see a return email notifications. Or
Okay, depending upon the question, you can either submit it, you can send it to me, or you can work with the support team at CE Broker. They are very good. The docs who are using them are very satisfied. I think they'll be the same for you all as licensees. But again, you can always send them to me. Shannon and Miss Phyllis, so you can send them to them. And if they can't answer, they'll send them to me. And we'll make them work for you all, because this is the goal of this whole phase-in year, to iron out all the problems.
okay, and the other question that came up was once an individual requests their transcripts go to this broker, do they notify the therapist that they're in the system, or how do they?
Within seconds of you submitting, you can scroll down and see your transcript.
Okay.
And it's in the reverse order of ad. So the last in is the first up on the transcript.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Rodney? Is there any public comments that we have, Dr. Collada?
I have seen none at this time. So Alan, have you seen any? I guess Alan slipped off, but no, I haven't seen any come in.
No, sir.
All right.
Thank you. Follow up on CEUs for 2021. I think Dr. Collada has explained that earlier, how that's being phased in. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay.
Did we lose Ken?
Yeah, he just texted me. His computer froze up.
Okay.
And he's coming back on.
Well, Alan will let him back in when he comes in. Okay.
Okay. So still no public?
No comment. Go ahead.
No comment. Okay. Is there any other old business anyone would like to discuss? Okay. We'll move on to new business. Phyllis, do you have anything that you have on your agenda you'd like to present to the committee?
No, sir. No report.
Okay. Shannon, is there anything that you would like to present to the committee?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Collada, how are we doing with this COVID pandemic with licensure and all? Or is it moving smoothly, or are we still having any hiccups or whatever?
I think the only hiccup has been the action of the House of Representatives to vote to petition to end the governor's orders. If you recall that happened at the end of the session. before anything could be resolved, we were meeting, and we decided at the board level that, you know, if this were to continue, we would still, in order to prevent disruption of care, we had extended all the temporary licenses to January 25th. Now, having said that, the governor has A, issued new orders, B, the 19th JDC, or the courts in Baton Rouge, heard this case, ruled it unconstitutional. The law that allowed them to do it was ruled unconstitutional. And then there is a direct appeal at this point to the Supreme Court of Louisiana. The Attorney General initially signaled that they were going to appeal, but as of today, we are unaware that there's been any appeal to the Louisiana Supreme Court. And it is unlikely, since it is a state law matter, that it would ever get heard at the United States Supreme Court. But nonetheless, if the action is adverse at the Louisiana Supreme Court, the board will still act, I think, to prevent a disruption of care and allow an orderly transition of care to our Louisiana licensees. But again, I think that that's something they have to wait and see what's going on. But no matter what happens, all the licenses are extended to January 25th by board fiat, and are now, again, by the governor's extension. We continue to remain in the declared healthcare emergency. And as you recall, all of these licenses are for the duration of the Louisiana healthcare emergency. Have I made myself clear? If there are any questions about that, please ask me.
And we still have the rules suspended on the therapists the students getting clinical hours and being paid to help out during this crisis?
Yes, until the declared healthcare emergency goes away, that will continue. Now, are we back to full licensing exams?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, that's statewide.
that's state, yeah,
That's national.
national wide, yeah. I
Okay.
haven't heard of any issues with being able to take boards. Any issues at this time in the phase that we're in with fingerprints or anything like that. But our next wave of that doesn't really come out until April, May, and June. So all that's good.
All right, so Shannon and Ms. Johnson, y'all are not having any trouble getting the credentials from the national testing or the fingerprints right now, are you?
No.
Okay, so I think, pretty much we wound that down, but if a problem does arise, please let us know.
Fingerprint checks and all, we're getting those back in a timely manner?
Yes, sir.
Good. All righty, is there any other questions for Dr. Collada? Any public comment, doctor?
Not that I'm aware of. Alan, are you aware of any public comment?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Is there any other new business anyone would like to discuss? Any public comment, Dr. Collada, before?
None?
No, sir.
All righty. I have no further business for us to discuss unless anyone else has.
Michael, you're muted, buddy. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. In the minutes, Diane, there was, you were going to follow up regarding clinical rotation because some of the hospitals weren't comfortable letting students rotate through. Any update on that?
In our area right now with our current students, we did not have any problems, and I have not heard of any with the other programs. However, and Raymond, I'm not putting words in your mouth. Did you tell me y'all were still limited at your hospital? You do not take students at this time.
I have to follow up. I don't know what the latest is because a couple of weeks ago, when the COVID numbers shot up when we went into partial phase 2, I hadn't seen an email come out about students. I'm going to follow up on that today. I know vendors are not allowed in the facility, and we're trying to cut out as much traffic as possible. So that will be on my agenda today.
All right, but Mike, from the schools, we have not heard anything from the schools with clinical practice at this point. Of course, when we came into this, and I can't speak for all programs, but we are pretty much kind of set up the same. When we went into shutdown in the spring, that's when we were hitting the ICUs. That's when everything was blowing up. That's when they shut us down. By the time we got to the summer, the institutions were able to create COVID floors or wards, and students were still not being allowed in that area, but in the other ICUs. Right now, clinics are going fine. My only concern is it is their staff that's working with our students, and I do know that some of the facilities are running very lean on staff. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed they'll continue to work with us, but no issues yet.
Hey, I can tell you that the nursing board is, and the nursing supply and nursing supply and demand council specifically is asking because they're getting a lot of feedback around the state of limitations in their clinicals from facilities. And part of it, Dinah, is, there's liability. I think part of it is the liability issue, and the other is the staffing.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, the schools have to bring their own staff in for clinical instruction. So it hasn't been early. I think in the spring, there was a PPE issue, that not having enough PPE to be able. And so I think some of the hospitals are telling students in schools that they have to bring some of their own PPE. The schools have to provide some of that. So I don't have anything hardcore except what came out of Nursing Supply and Demand Council. So that trickles down to RT or any of the other disciplines, then I would think those same hospitals would have those same issues.
Okay. And I do know, again, since I moved up to the assistant dean job, I'm not with the RT program on a day in, day out. And I do know that Bossier Parish Community College had bought PPE, at least mask and all, for their students going out into clinics. And that had been distributed not just for RTs, but their nursing, all right, and other programs. So, I mean, we'll just keep an eye on that. But like I said, so far, we have not had any issues getting them out. But now it's in February when we go back to the ICUs. So that's going to be our biggest thing. Right now, we've been doing floor care and staying off of the COVID floor. So there wasn't a liability, not that you couldn't have somebody in a regular floor room test positive for COVID, but sure. But we're not in those units. So I think the concern will come back in the spring.
At present, Oshner is allowing students within the facilities. I just got a text message from the head of our integration council, the Respiratory Integration Council.
The only other thing that I've seen clinically and again, this was a little bit from my PT license. We just got a email last week from the PT board that we re-credential every 2 years, that they were waiving the CEUs, not only for those of us that are going to renew in 2021, but 2022. And some of those, I think we've had a little bit of problem getting some of those in an acute care facility, to do clinical rotations, but nothing that has shut us down like it did last spring. And I'm just praying we get through this spring without a major back to the liability issue. And again, what got us through that was the ability for the student to be able to be paid by the hospital, covered by liability, and they were able to get their clinical rotation. So if we're still under a healthcare emergency, it's nice to know we still have that option.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Hey, and I was just gonna say, over here as well, we've been taking students back in clinics. We just finished a floor clinic rotation.
How's your
Doctor-
ICUs running? Y'all-
Sorry,
How's your ICUs running? Are y'all running full?
we full hospital wide, every area to the max.
To the max.
Yeah, everybody's filling back up or have already filled back up. So the numbers, when you see the trend lines, it's really the speed at which everything is filling up is faster than it was in July. So, but it's to be expected. But that's just with the COVID spikes. And that's not with other routine flus and everything else. Those trend lines that I see are just all the COVID trends that are coming in. But I know staffing tight. Dr. Van, I'm off topic, but any insight from the board's perspective on where the thought's going to be about making some of the telemedicine, some of those telehealth, those type of things, like these meetings right now are being allowed by exception virtually about making some of those things permanent? Any insight there?
Okay. In terms of permanency, that really becomes a question of the public meetings law. Because the advisory committee is created as a matter of law, it has to meet and it has to follow the public meeting law. Now, during the COVID emergency, we are allowed to do this. There was a bill in the second special session of the legislature to begin to make this electronic meetings more permanent after the emergency, but it failed.
Right.
I anticipate that it'll probably come back again, okay? I think that in terms of telehealth, that's here to stay. We're gonna have to write rules. Telemedicine has pretty good rules. They are actually suspended by we have a kill clause during the emergency that's built into the rules. And we will probably build that in as we write rules for telehealth. But I got, that'll probably be mid-year before we even get to rules for telehealth.
Right.
But I think that right now the telehealth law is broad enough that you can be governed by it. And we'll make individual special licensing arrangements when we talk to you all in the future.
I was going to say, what's the trickle down from some of that to some of the other professions, us, OTs, some of the other hands-on caregiving professions?
The OTs are doing, there are some OTs that can, because of the work needed, are doing the things that they can do by telehealth. The big issue for telehealth is, or telemedicine even, is the concept that you may be treating a patient and then they decide because of COVID to move the financial, they have to move back to someplace else. And so the patient is moved out of state. Now, if the patient moves out of state, you cannot treat them as a Louisiana OT unless the state of residence grants you the permission to do so. It's the state of residence in terms of telemedicine and telehealth that grants permission. So, for example, we have long had a telehealth certificate that people did not have to get licensed in Louisiana, but could provide telemedicine services. And it's spelled out how you do it in our rules if you want to read it. What's going to happen is when we write these rules, we're going to have to make those provisions for outside people coming in. But when you go out of the state because your patient no longer resides in Louisiana, you really have to work within the confines of the state of residence. We got no say-so there, and we can't grant you anything to do that.
Fascinating. Okay, thank you. That's interesting. Thank you.
Michael, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment at the Congress, the AARC Congress, under telehealth medicine. There was the individual listed the new CMS Ken, what is it, the reimbursement?
Yeah.
For reimbursement for RTs on telemedicine under the direction of a physician and prescription. So it looks like it's here to stay because the money's going to be flowing in to Allied Health as well.
Yeah, well, I think here to stay, that's a that's kind of a multi-tiered, Michael. It can be here to stay from a CMS provision on a reimbursement side, but it doesn't mean from a rule of practice, which is there's some that are conditions of participation and on the Medicare, Medicaid side from the money side, but it would be the boards and the boards in respective states and areas that are going to govern whether or not the practice period is allowed. Whether or not the feds allow it to be paid for is mutually exclusive to, and Dr. Van, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's mutually exclusive to the state or states involved allowing whatever practice that may be.
Yeah, there were, I don't know, there are two bills, one in the Senate, one in the House right now regarding licensure during an emergency like COVID. I know the states have that authority and responsibility, but I'll pull up the numbers and send them to you on those House and Senate bill. They haven't passed, they're just sending on the hearing.
Right.
I would comment to you that you need to be aware that whatever you do by telehealth, you need to be able to document what you could and didn't do, more importantly. And if appliances are available, for example, some of the insurance companies are now sending out their insureds little telehealth device kits. It's got a device to hook a stethoscope, so you can tell a patient where to put the stethoscope and you can listen to lung feels, or you can listen to heart murmurs. They've got one that's going to have a little device you can look in the mouth or the ear, like an otoscope or a flashlight to see the back of the throat. The difficulty you will have in your area, like many of the doctors do, is that you can't really say the lung is clear to auscultation and percussion because you haven't done that. You can maybe say it's clear to auscultation if they have a device, but I would be sure that if you document, you need to tell people if you document that, you better make sure that you document they had the device and you were able to do it.
Right.
Because what has gotten a few people in trouble with telemedicine is documenting things that they could not do by telemedicine. For example, they have canned routines in their computers, and they might say, rectal exam normal. Well, how did you do that by telehealth, doc? Okay. So again, I think it's to be very cautious. It may be standard for you to put these in your reports, but if you couldn't do it by telehealth, don't document it.
Right. Okay. That's
All
all.
right.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Any public comments, Alan?
No, sir.
All righty, well, if we don't have any other new business, then I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll get some meeting dates out. I went to look on the site, Dr. Van, and I didn't see any dates for the 2021 board meetings yet. Have y'all
Yeah, they're going to be approved. They're going to be approved on the 14th.
Okay.
And they'll be published on the 14th. And I'd appreciate it if you'd give me about 2 weeks or before, if you're going to, don't try and do it in that last week before the board meeting if you can help it.
Okay.
So you'll see those out. And because the board changed its proceedings and procedures, we now have a mechanism, so you'll understand. We changed all those board meetings to earlier in the month to accommodate the rulemaking efforts that we're undertaking, because you have to have a hearing within so many days of the notice in the Louisiana Register. And a lot of times, if we had them at the end of the month, we would exceed that time limit. Well, so we moved all the board meetings. But recently, with some new opinions from our attorneys, we now have found that we do not have to have a full board convened to have these hearings on rules. We now have them without the full board, and we simply issue a report to the board on anything that comes from those rules hearings. So now we can go back, and I think the board is going to be moving back to the last Monday in the month, probably, for most of their meetings.
Okay.
But we'll see what they do. You know, I never know what they're going to do till they do it.
Right.
All righty, well, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Have a
Second.
second? Have a second from Sheila. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.